Today I'm going to talk about my experience of attending the psychedelic conference Breaking Convention, which I did in April 2023. Was it an interesting and well-organised event? Was the content mostly focused on scientific research, or was there something there for the layman like myself? Was it a good atmosphere for networking with other psychonauts? Well, these are the kind of things that I'll be discussing in this video, so let's get into it. Breaking Convention describes itself as a biennial multidisciplinary conference on psychedelic consciousness. It's been running since 2011 and is probably the largest and most well-known psychedelic conference in Europe. During the time that it's been running, it's attracted an absolute who's who of speakers from across the psychedelic world, to the degree that if you've heard of someone, then they have probably been on the bill at Breaking Convention. Dennis McKenna, Rick Doblin, Graham Hancock, Paul Stamets, Amanda Fielding. This almost reads like the guest list for the Joe Rogan podcast. But it's not just these big names in attendance. There are all kinds of up-and-coming speakers, grassroots events organisers, psychedelic artists, and small independent teams developing virtual reality ayahuasca simulations. So it's a pretty eclectic mix. And the cool thing is that all these different people are hanging around in the same space. So if you hear someone give an interesting talk, you can just walk over and say hello, end up having a conversation, and maybe go for a beer with them in the bar later on, which is exactly what happened here with me and the psychedelic historian. And I think this really nails what I liked about this conference. So for sure, I was attending talks and hearing what people had to say, but the thing that really stuck out in my head, and probably what I spent the bulk of my time doing, was socialising and chatting with people. And these are people I'd only just met. You know, it really felt like this was an actual, real-life psychedelic community. And this is something I've talked about quite a bit on my channel, asking the question, what does the ideal psychedelic community look like? What does it look like to bring together lots of different ideas and approaches? Everything from the scientific to the spiritual to the technological to the cultural, and have everyone on a level playing field and open to good faith conversations. What would that look like? Well, honestly, I think it would look exactly like this, and it was fucking awesome. I'm not sure how many other places could successfully blend mycology, mythology, psychology, metaphysics, consciousness research, mysticism, ancient traditions, and modern science. But that's what happened, and honestly, we need more of it. We need to work out how to keep this level of conversation and goodwill flowing in the gap between these 2-year events. The event itself takes place over 3 days, and during that time there are talks almost constantly in 4 different locations, so in most cases you have to pick which one sounds of interest and then stick with it. There's also a large display hall, and this is where you'll find all the artists and artwork, people selling their own books and products, different organisations explaining what they do, and there was a separate technology area which was full of all these different VR experiences. I had a go on a few of them and I thought they were kind of cool as an idea, but nothing I could see myself getting into beyond the initial novelty. Still, it was great to see that technological aspect of the community, because as with many aspects of this conference, it wasn't something that was specifically on my radar, and now that I'm aware of it, it's broadened my horizons a bit. And it was the same thing with the speakers. Now obviously there were some talks where I was somewhat familiar with the content beforehand, so I was kind of there more as a fanboy. But some of these talks I just stumbled into and ended up having my mind completely blown. And a lot of these people have agreed to be guests on the channel at some point, so I'm really looking forward to connecting with them again some point in the future. You know, in the psychedelic community, we often use the term consciousness expanding, and most of the time we're using it to describe the experience with a certain substance. But this entire event was consciousness expanding, at least it was for me. Now I've been to other psychedelic conferences before, and while I enjoyed and appreciated them for what they were doing, it just wasn't the same kind of thing as what was happening here. You know, most other conferences, at least around Europe, will lean towards discussing clinical research data or the use of psychedelics within a medical framework. And that's fine, and it can be really interesting, but it's also a little bit dry, and it really doesn't speak to me about my experiences with psychedelics, whereas the topics at Breaking Convention absolutely did. I would say that the vibe here is more akin to being at a very social music or comedy festival rather than these other science-oriented conferences, and I'm not throwing shade at those conferences or the work being done by these science people, but to me, as someone who's more interested in the wider culture rather than just the research data, this just resonated with me more. I'll talk a little bit about the price. The 3-day ticket cost £230, and that also included a couple of additional evening events and a big after-party rave thing on the final night. So honestly, I think it was good value for the money. The venue itself was a University of Exeter campus, which was perfect for this kind of thing. It's been in different places over the years, so next time it could be somewhere completely different, but if it was in Exeter again, I would have no complaints at all. The organisation was top-notch. The whole event, it just seemed to flow. So yeah, as I think you can probably tell, I give Breaking Convention a big thumbs up. I will definitely be back. And just before I sign off here, I just want to say a really big thank you to everyone who I met at the event and to those people who took the time to come over and have a chat with me. I actually did get recognised quite a bit, which surprised me. And some people came over and gave me little gifts like this cute little mushroom thing which hangs on my bedpost. So to all you guys who made this such a memorable experience, thank you so much, and especially all the people who put the hard work in to make this happen in the first place. It was very much appreciated. So that's all my thoughts on Breaking Convention. I had intended to post this as soon as I got back, but you know, I got somewhat distracted by the chaos of reality. But anyway, I hope you find that useful, and I will see you next time, or maybe I will see you next time at Breaking Convention.